Welcome back to the channel. Crypto Trend Trader here with a quick update on Bitcoin. Today we're going to take a look at Bitcoin on the Coinbase chart and where we expect this market to go and some potential moves that we could expect to happen here in the short term. But before we get started, I'd like to remind you it's not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. These markets are extremely volatile, so please do your own research and trade responsibly. Alright, so here we're taking a look at the chart, and essentially what I'm seeing is we may be topping out this pattern right here. And part of the reason I think that is not only because of the overhead resistance we had discussed, basically like the SR flip, like we have been finding this as support. We broke down below it, couldn't regain it as support. It's been acting as resistance, and now here we are back at it again. So that's one reason I think that this may also be coming to an end. But first, just keeping it basic, if we take the measurement of the first move, it was $1,243. If we take the measurement of the second move, it was $1,640. And then if we take the measurement of the third move, it's like $1,230 right now. You want to see the third wave be the longest, never the shortest, but oftentimes the first and the fifth wave will be close in length to each other or to the third wave as well. So in this case, we have the first and the fifth the same length. There's a high likelihood that that would end up being like the final move for it. We're also at overhead resistance, and it's not unrealistic to think we would come back at some point in time and test our breakout period on a longer time frame. So that's our first one, and that's using a little bit of Elliott wave. I know some people don't like Elliott wave, but if you look at it, one came up here, the two came down. Let's check the retracement on the Elliott wave with our Fibonacci, because often these tools are used together in conjunction and work very well. So here I'm going to turn this one to blue here. So now when we came up here, we hit the top, and then we came back down to the 618. And first we came to the 0.5 and got the bounce all the way above the 236, and then the 618, and then we broke out. And now on the second one here, we're going to take from the bottom of this one to the top of the third wave now, and I'm going to turn this one green. And again, you'll see we came all the way up here, we came down to the 382, we bounced to the 236, and then we came all the way down to the 0.5, and then from the 0.5 we got to move all the way back up, consolidated, and then broke out. So here we made it down to the 618, here we made it to the 0.5. So what you would expect to happen here now is on this third wave, okay, if it was just going to retrace the third wave alone, you would take the fib for that wave, and you would expect it to come down either to the 0.5 or the 618. So oftentimes what you'll see happen is price will come down here to that area, and then you'll see a reaction from it. So we may see a reaction right here in this $88,000 to $8,300 range, but that's not the correct way to do Fibonacci of like an Elliott wave structure. For Fibonacci of an entire Elliott wave structure, you need to go from the bottom of the entire thing to the top. So you're going to go through 1 through 5 wave, okay? So you're going to check the whole thing, and then it's going to go to the top, and then you can expect now your retracement of 0.5 to 618. So we would expect now a potential move down to somewhere around here, a reaction, and then it sells back off, and that's when people realize, oh wait, hang on a minute, it's selling off too far for this to be a retracement of just this area right here. It's a retracement of the whole thing. So that's going to bring us back down somewhere in this range right here, the 618.5, and that would also line up with a retest of our breakout. That's also going to essentially line up a pattern here as well, which would basically give us like a head and shoulders pattern, because we're going to see that reaction down to the 382 up to the 236, and it usually overshoots it a little bit, retests, and then that's going to come down here, and when that sells back off for the retest, it's going to form a head and shoulders, and then later on the market is going to have an opportunity then to see, are we going to invalidate this head and shoulders and break to the upside, or are we going to validate it and break back inside the channel and get the measure move back down here to retest the bottom. And either one of those seems very likely to me at this time, but the fact of the matter is when I look at this, one of these two scenarios seems like it's going to happen. I can't guarantee it. This is not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor, but based on experience and patterns and moving averages and resistance, etc., all the things I've explained, Fibonacci and Elliott wave, I think there's a high likelihood that something like this, a similar situation like this, is going to play out. And again, it does, both of them point to short-term downside, But after that, it's a matter of which way we break that could give us like the actual swing, the actual like change in momentum for the actual market itself and the overall trend. Now, I could be wrong here, and we didn't even top out. We're just consolidating, and then we finally get the push back up here to 9,000 or 9,200 or whatever, and we get to meet like the full measure move. But that doesn't actually like change any of the rest of this. I mean, if we move our target for the fifth wave up just a little bit higher, it's not going to invalidate any of this. It's not going to change any of this. Like, it all still stays the same. It just moves our target a little bit because we would just drag the fib up a little higher, and then it's going to change like where we have to pull back to basically like meet our fib targets. Which again, if we pull this up to like the $9,200 range here, you'll see it lines up very good with what we were just talking about. If we put this at 9,200, that's going to have our retest where we come back down here exactly at the 618, which is also going to be the breakout. So again, I mean, I'm just assuming at this point in time that this is in fact our swing high, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. Typically, the way you would check it for the rule is you would take from the swing, the previous swing to the top there, and then you want to come down at least to the 236 to validate that that's a potential swing. And then usually what happens is you come to the 236, get a reaction rally, and then it will fail immediately, come down to the 382 or the 0.5. So that's what I would expect to happen at this point in time if we don't just find our move here and get continuation, which is exactly what we were talking about yesterday. When this TJD TD MACD comes down here and the red on the histogram lines up with the red on the slope here, we're going to usually see a reaction rally off of that, or a bounce and attempt to save that. And because we've already crossed over negative on the TJD Jewel Thief, and we're not actually selling off, I think it's likelihood that we would in fact bounce right here, bounce our green parabolic trend line, bounce these moving averages, bounce all these indicators, and then potentially get that last stab up, because people are already entering shorts here convinced that we're going to dump down off of this. If we get that stab up, take out their stop losses, and then we can get a much more powerful sell-off for like a respectable correction. So at this point in time, something like that, a similar scenario like that, is what I would expect to happen. It's not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. I'm just trying to look into the future, potentially what's going to happen, so that we can be prepared for the move. So we're not just reacting to the market, like we're acting based on what the market does. And that's important, is to have a plan prior to the movement. That way you're ready to execute, not just like jumping on trying to do TA as the price is moving. So there you have it, guys. Crypto Trend Trader, Bitcoin Technical Analysis, and I'm signing off.